Running Out of Time, Chapter 2, page 9, everyone. Wake up, sleepyhead, Jessie groaned. How could it be morning already? But Hannah was standing over the bed, all dressed, her brown hair neatly braided and wrapped around her head. Even in the uncertain light of the loft, Jessie could tell by her sister's red cheeks that Hannah had scrubbed her face hard enough for both of them. "You're not going to have time for chores if you don't hurry up," Hannah said. "I don't know why some people need years of sleep." Jessie started to answer that some people had done more interesting things than sleep all night, but then she stopped. No one was allowed to mention Ma's midnight rounds during the day. It was another secret, though everyone knew about it. Jessie sat up and remembered the last night was doubly secret. What was the something very dangerous that Ma wanted her to do? Jessie had done pretty much everything dangerous there was to do in Clifton, she thought, without being killed. On a dare, she had walked a fallen oak tree across Crooked Creek last May when it was flooded. Everyone was sure she had fallen off and drowned in the speeding water, but Ma wasn't supposed to know about that. Jessie had also talked Pa into letting her help him shoe Mr. Medder's wild horse once, and the horse had reared and kicked his hooves at her, but Pa had pushed her out of the way then. Jessie couldn't imagine either of her parents actually putting her in danger. "Jessie," Ma called from downstairs. "Coming," Jessie said. Hannah flashed her an "I told you so" look and disappeared down the ladder. Jessie thought about throwing her brush at Hannah, but didn't want to take the time to pick it up, and she would get in trouble. Hannah would see to it. Jessie got out of bed and pulled her dress on, no more carefully than she had the night before. The dress was threadbare woolen that had originally been Ma's. It was cut down for Hannah and then passed on to Jessie when Hannah became too stout. Jessie didn't think it was fair that she still had to wear Hannah's old clothes. Jessie was an inch taller. It wasn't her fault Hannah was fatter. But people in Clifton didn't care about a girl's ankles showing a little. She'd heard Ma and the other women say it was a scandalous thing back east, but on the frontier people had other things to worry about. Wondering whether she'd ever have a chance to see the East, Jessie began her daily battle with her hair. It was dark and coarse and uncontrollable. Jessie braided it as tightly as she could, knowing wisps of hair would begin freeing themselves as soon as she finished. Finally ready, Jessie climbed downstairs and started taking the family chamber pots out to the outhouse. She hated that chore, but it was her turn. Two of her brothers, Nathan and Bartholomew, were helping Pa feed the cattle, pigs, and chickens and horses. Andrew, who was just 2 years younger than Jessie, carried wood toward Pa's blacksmith shop. Hannah and Katie, the youngest, helped Ma with breakfast. Jessie stopped at the well to wash her hands. Pa, heading from the barn to the forge, stepped behind her. "Morning, Jessica. Did Milady sleep well?" It was his joke to call his daughters Milady, even though he didn't believe in royalty. Jessie had heard Mrs. Seward say once that for a Jacksonian Democrat, Joseph Kaiser certainly put on airs. "Yes, Pa," said Jessie. She looked at him closely, trying to figure out if he knew about the something very dangerous that Ma wanted. "What's wrong? Did I forget to shave?" Pa made a show of trying to look down at his chin. Jessie decided he didn't know anything about Ma's plan. That scared her, but she clowned in answer. "I think you missed a patch right there," Jessie said, pointing at a spot on his right cheek and bringing her hand up suddenly to splash water in his face. Pa laughed and he splashed back. "Pa, I don't want to be soaking wet at school," Jessie protested. "You started it." Jessie dried her hands on her apron as Pa, laughing, went on to the smithy. Jessie had heard Ma complain that Pa acted worse than the little boy sometimes. With his curly brown hair and laughing eyes, he looked a lot like Nathan. Jessie knew he was actually 35 because it said in the family Bible, Joseph Andrew Kaiser, born May 18, 1804, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ma was 3 years younger, but she acted older. The circuit rider minister, Reverend Holloway, always preached that wives were supposed to be obedient to their husbands. It didn't seem to work that way at Jessie's house. Oh, Ma pretended to be obedient, but she was really in charge. Only Pa usually knew what she was planning. Jessie walked slowly back to the house and stomped about what Ma might want her to do. Usually Jessie could find some answers to any question at school, even when she wasn't entirely sure. But she couldn't figure out anything now. In the sunny yard, Jessie almost wondered if she'd imagined going to the King of the Mountain Rock. Had she dreamed it? But no. When she stepped into the cabin door, she saw the wilted leaves Ma had picked on their way out of the woods. No dawdling now, Ma said as everyone converged at the table. Jessie could smell the salt ham from across the room. There were also eggs, bacon, gravy, back bacon, apple pie, and mush. The light from the fire glowed behind the table. The cabin was dim otherwise, because the oil paper windows were so thick. Often Jessie wished for glass windows like Dr. Pfister's, but today the dimness seemed cozy. Across from the door, the ornate mirror on the back wall reflected little light. Even if it was one of the few heirlooms brought from Pennsylvania, Jessie had never liked the mirror. Maybe she'd been yelled at to stay away from it too many times when she was younger, but she'd been told just as often to be careful around the framed picture of Andrew Jackson and the tacked-up map of the United States, which hung on either side of the cabin door, and she had always thought the map and the picture looked downright friendly. Pa began his prayer. As always, it was long, and Jessie wasn't the only one to open one eye and peek at the food. We implore you, Lord, to keep our village and family safe from any sickness abroad in the land, Pa said. Jessie glanced up, but Pa's face wasn't any different from when he prayed for the wisdom of the government. Jessie caught a stern glance from Ma and closed her eyes again until the Amen.